Blitz podcast. As always, it's your boy Kane Schwartz coming at you, and on top of me right here. Oh, I mean, I probably could have put that a little better. Yeah, and
gotta restart.
Under
it really is after hours.
Yeah, the person under my camera right now is Tyler, and the person above my camera is Jaden. But yeah, we're happy to hop on for the Week 3 preview episode. But it feels good to be on for some late night football talk. How we feeling, boys? Tyler, I know you had a bad beat last night.
Yeah, man, and the Pat McAfee, the special that he had I think it was Steelers plus 7.5 or whatever, and Dandel had like a free promotion thing. So I was like, all right, let me try it out, and did not work out as the Browns scored a last-second touchdown on a lateral or two. Also, I will say the silver lining is that I had Browns D, so like in fantasy. So like that ended up working out okay. But yeah, just a brutal beat. But yeah, it's football season. I can't be too upset. I mean, it's football, man. Like it's just how it goes sometimes. But yeah, I will say one question that I want to really quickly before I know Jaden says how he's doing and everything. Is there a more demoralizing feeling in sports than your team getting a penalty on third down when you've stopped the team?
That's
it's pretty down.
I mean, obviously fourth down is probably worse, but obviously it happens a lot less. Yeah. I mean, that's about as bad as it gets.
And the worst is illegal contact, because you can call illegal contact any single play.
It's pretty bad too when you're going for an onside kick and your team recovers, but you then see after the play that the reason why you recovered is because your player jumped.
Yeah, that hurt.
Yeah,
that hurts. That's a dick tease right there.
Couldn't put it any better myself. Jacob says, "Go fucking Ravens." Says he apologizes for the language, but he's here with it. He's here after hours.
Now
we'll get into the Ravens a little bit.
Yeah, we'll
is terrifying. George Pickens. I've heard that through the grapevine. Is that he's a little scared of Mr. Pickens.
I mean, how about we dive into the Steelers last night, man? I mean, we already alluded to it a couple times. We had catch of the year last night. That's the good thing,
Yep.
How about you just take it away?
I mean, man? I would definitely rank it as catch of the year.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm seeing OBJ comparisons, so that really makes me feel good about what we've got. This was a guy I called my shot on. Hasn't really been able to produce so far, but neither has anybody in Pittsburgh. So I can't really like it. When people were like hyping him up for fantasy, I was like, that's probably not going to happen, at least not this year.
Got the potential.
But yeah, we saw it again last night. Steelers offense can't do anything. First half, though, I will say that's probably the best couple drives that we were able to put together. Trubisky looked okay. Offensive line actually looked good for the majority of the game. But then we came out in the second half and it was just all gone. It was like the air had been sucked out of the offense. Couldn't really move the ball. Couldn't get the run game going. Couldn't find anybody open. And then now we're once again questioning, when does Kenny Pickett come in? And we have the Jets next week, which you would think, maybe that's an opportune time of when you would want to potentially be bringing him in. But, dude, we have a freaking gauntlet after that. It's at Buffalo, Tampa Bay at home, at Miami, at Philadelphia, and then we slide into the bye week. So,
wow.
It's probably not, if it happens, I think it happens during the bye week and we have a full week to prepare of, okay, Kenny Pickett is starting, not he gets thrown in the middle of the game, unless like Philadelphia is beating the living shit out of us and then he comes in, finishes the game, and then Tomlin has 2 weeks to decide whether he wants to roll him out against the New Orleans Saints and then against Cincinnati. Then we go to Indy, and then towards the end of the year, do have a nice. We go to Atlanta, then we play Baltimore at home, then we go to Carolina. There's games in there where I would not mind seeing him, and then Vegas and Baltimore and Cleveland to finish out the year. So I honestly don't know if we see Kenny Pickett this year, but I don't know if anything's going to be able to work, even if he comes in, because it's Canada. I can't with him anymore. I can't do it. Like, I don't know if anybody's seen the next gen stats route tree that Deontay Johnson put together,
Oh.
but it's to the outside of the field
Out boy.
every time. Yeah, he is officially out boy. And that hurts because he's really good. And I mean, I do kind of get it of you don't want to take your quarterback who's not very good and put him in situations where he's throwing it where most defenders are, but eventually more defenders are going to be on the outside if you keep throwing it to the outside. And Nick Chubb ran all over us, but I think most people expected that to happen.
Fair enough.
I don't know what this. I mean, I watched Matt Canada at Maryland, and I don't know.
Like I was telling,
what they saw in there.
It's like I was telling Kane last week. This is all because of Durkin. If Durkin didn't kill that kid, Matt Canada wouldn't have gotten his shot. Head coaching, we wouldn't have noticed him, and he'd be at Toledo State or something.
Toledo State.
He wouldn't be calling plays at Pittsburgh.
I think you need to do some type of reel breaking down how DJ Durkin is the one to blame for the Steelers'
PowerPoint presentation.
I think you should absolutely do that. I'll agree with you that I thought in the first half they did look really good. I thought that Trubisky had some pretty good throws, even on like that final drive. I know it was in garbage time, but like those two throws to Freiermuth, I was like, where the heck has this been all game? I thought Deontay did have a couple drops, but nothing that was like extremely bad, like no like guaranteed touchdown type drops. But I thought Trubisky did enough, like you said, and I totally agree with you. I think he did enough to keep the starting job for now. I don't think it makes sense to throw him in for next week against the Jets. And then what are you going to do? Because then you're setting up the kid to fail. No offense, but like going up against Buffalo, Tampa,
Philadelphia,
Miami, and then the Eagles. Yeah, like those 4 games going into the bye, like, yeah. You were saying that if they're getting blown out by the Eagles, they could get blown out. No offense, but like we just saw what the Bills did to the Titans.
I just said that because if they get blown out by Philadelphia, then that way they could put him in like the fourth quarter and then take that quarter and then ride that into the bye week, and then you get 2 weeks to decide, okay, do we want to make this like our thing now, or was that just because our quarterback's playing terrible, we're bringing the backup in, just like you would if anybody throws like 4 picks or something.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes total sense. But yeah, I totally agree. If you're going to make this move to Pickett this season, then it cannot come before the bye, because the one thing we all notice in this league is confidence is huge. If you have the confidence that you can win, if you have the confidence you can do it, it can propel you to victories. How are you going to get confidence against some of those teams? Like, it's just the Bills is a great defense. Eagles are a great defense. Even the Dolphins are a solid defense. The Bucs are a great defense. I mean, these are just
young quarterbacks.
These defenses.
Young quarterbacks are almost like, I mean, I know this sounds like weird, but like they're almost like little kids. Like their developmental years are like so crucial compared to the rest of their career. Like, I mean, these first like 4 games are more important than like 2 seasons later on in his career probably combined, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, prime example, Justin Fields.
Yeah. What Skip Bayless did make a great point. He put out a tweet that said, look, obviously this isn't, whatever is happening right now isn't working. And regardless of whether he's a actual, skill-wise update or not, there's one thing that Kenny Pickett has, and that's intangibles. Dude has the intangibles, and Trubisky has none. He has no – it just feels like – I mean, and obviously I'm not in the locker room. None of us are in the locker room. But it just doesn't feel like people are bought into Trubisky. And I know everybody's going to buy into, like, the Deontay, like, sitting there waving his hands. But it just – was anybody bought into Trubisky in Chicago? No.
I was going to say, there's a guy whose confidence was shot because they threw him to the Wolves too early in his career.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just Chicago quarterbacks. I mean, that isn't surprising.
That is also a point to make. Did you hear Tomlin's comments after the game, Jaden, when he said, I don't really want to make any – he said we're really focusing on next week. He didn't want to make any definitive statements, but if he were to make one, are you looking at changing quarterback? And he said no. So, like, do you take a lot of stock in that? Or
I mean, to a certain degree, yes, because Tomlin is, at the end of the day, he is stuck in his ways, whether that be good or bad. You're not going to switch play callers in the middle of the season. Like, you're not just going to fire Canada in week 3 and just go find another guy because, there are a lot of people that are taken up. Like, there's not good play callers sitting on their couch because good play callers get hired. But to pull Trubisky right now, obviously it doesn't look good, and that's what the fans are going to want. And the problem that I have with it is you took Kenny Pickett because he was the day one ready guy. He was the NFL ready guy, and I know Malik Willis didn't look fantastic the other night, but he was the traits guy. And if you wanted to sit here and play this game of we're going to sit him and we're going to wait, we're going to let him develop, you should have waited a round or two, and you should have taken Malik Willis because you want
Malik Willis is the only one with NFL minutes, though,
which is
ironically
insane
enough
to me. But like, if you want to take the NFL ready guy, let's play him. Like that was the whole reason why you took him, is because you want to be able to play him year one. I can't say with confidence. I mean, after
being an NFL ready guy isn't necessarily like, oh, that means you got to play him day one. Like, I mean,
yeah, but like, if you were going to do this with like Trubisky, then I feel like you should be. It should at least be more of a conversation than what it is. And Tomlin's obviously not going to be like, well, I'm kind of wishy-washy between these two guys. Like, I don't really know what I'm going to do. But I don't know. I feel like I said, if we were going to wait, if the plan was to wait, then we should have got a guy that's more upside and a guy that you'd want to wait for because the payoff is a lot better. Like, I feel like Kenny Pickett, to a certain degree, is about as good as he's going to get.
Who was still available when you signed Trubisky? Not really.
Everybody. We signed Trubisky at like 12-15.
Oh, jeez.
The day that free agency.
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Like, I was still in class. I think that was the second post that I made when I got out of class. I might have still been in class when it started. So that was like immediately. I mean, like, I remember telling you, like, why didn't the Commanders go out and wait? Jameis probably would have been available. I mean, obviously Jimmy G was still available until August. So, and that obviously good for San Francisco for not moving him, but
Baker would have been better. Baker would have been better than Trubisky.
Baker would have been better.
Yeah. I mean, you know what's crazy, though, and I don't want to get sidetracked, and we'll talk about this a little later, but, like, the fact that the Browns thought that Baker was the problem, and supposedly you have a quarterback in there that, oh, anybody is better than Baker Mayfield, like, then if that's the case, then you should be a 12-5 team this year, just like when Baker Mayfield was the quarterback, like, back in his prime. Like, I mean,
Baker Mayfield would still be the quarterback of the Browns right now if someone else offered Deshaun Watson all that guaranteed money, because Cleveland was out. Cleveland was like the first. It was Cleveland, Carolina, New Orleans, and then Atlanta came in late. But Cleveland was out first. Like, it was down to Carolina, Atlanta, and New Orleans, and then it got down to New Orleans and Atlanta. And it was like, I remember seeing stuff that was like, it's going to come tomorrow. It's going to be one of these two teams. I had two graphics ready, both of them with Watson like our breaking news graphic, photoshopped with Watson in a Falcons jersey, Watson in a Saints jersey. Yeah. And then Cleveland offers him the guaranteed money, and he goes to Cleveland. Like, if somebody else would have offered him that money, he wouldn't be a Brown right now, and Baker would still be in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm. Crazy to think about how things turn out. All right. Yeah,
because I mean, if he had went to Atlanta, probably would have just been okay with suspending him for the year, and then you get him and Ridley back next year with Drake London and Kyle Pitts.
Top 5 pick.
Yeah.
Mark Cooper's looking really good, a lot better than I thought he was going to with Jacoby.
Yeah, I mean, like, the thing was just like, he's exciting. Every like actual thought like pointed to him being, because wide receivers too is Donovan Peoples-Jones. Like, if they're going to throw the ball, they're going to throw the ball to him. It was just like a gut feeling thing that like everybody was kind of like,
big,
I don't really want
big DPJ guy over here. Let's not forget.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
I think it was more so people like didn't think Brissett was going to get 200 yards a game.
Mm-mm.
And you would imagine 40 or 50 of those would probably go to the running back at least.
Yeah.
Crazy shit. All right, boys. Well, that's a nice Thursday night recap. Really bad beat for the over, but we digress.
Oh, really bad beat. I had Najee Harris too, because he got credited with that fumble at the end of the game.
Ouch.
I had Najee Harris in multiple leagues.
I had Najee Harris against you.
Oof. That's painful. All right. So, we did this last week, and we're doing it again. The formatting looks a little better. Definitely jumbled. We're definitely still messing around with that format for sure. But yeah, we each came out with our fantasy rankings, just like last week. We did top 15 QBs, top 30 RBs, top 30 wide receivers, and then Mitch did his top 15 tight ends. So we'll list all of those off for you guys and kind of just mention some notables off our list since rather than going down the whole list. But yeah, just kind of point out some guys that we don't like necessarily this week. But Tyler, you've got some guys that maybe you should start thinking about Dropsville for.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to get your guys kind of take on some of these guys as far as like what your leash is for them. Whether that means you're looking to trade them immediately, whether that means you're thinking about possibly dropping them. And I'm going to go ahead and start with Ezekiel Elliott. He has 11.8 points on the season. Some people were drafting him as an RB2. He was probably in like the top 15, maybe top 20 running backs at the beginning of the year. What are you guys feeling about him? Because at this point, he's not even a flex option, really and truly. I mean, if you're averaging less than 6 points a game, you're not even getting flex appeal. So I want to know from you guys if you were an Ezekiel Elliott owner, what are you doing?
Yeah, well, I was just an Ezekiel Elliott owner in my fraternity league, and I am jumping for joy. If you can sell Zeke Elliott in your home leagues just because his name is Ezekiel Elliott and it's a recognizable name, do it. That's exactly what I did, and I won. So I feel great about that. And then in your home leagues, you can definitely do that. But I'm abandoning ship on Zeke, dude. Like, I mean, they're going to have to be throwing a lot now, especially with Dak out, just because of the game script. What it's likely to be is they're going to be down a lot, so they aren't going to be running the ball a whole lot. But if they are running the ball, I mean, I mentioned it last year that Zeke was going to have to be on the street holding a sign looking for a job. I think it actually might be the case this year, dude. Like, yeah, I think it actually might be the case this year, dude. Like, I was trying to get Pollard in a couple leagues. I couldn't come away with it. People have finally started to buy in. But that guy is no longer in insurance policy like Alexander Madison is. He is RB. He is the running back I'm rostering in Dallas right now.
Yeah. I mean, I'd agree. I'd say you hit it on the analysis. If you can, with your home leagues and people that know Zeke as the name and the guy that was, top 2 running back 3 or 4 years ago, if you can sell him as anything close to that, if you can sell him as an RB15, you do so. And if you can't, if you're in a league where, everybody's kind of hip, everybody's privy to what he's going to be, you just got to ride it out. I mean, it's been 2 weeks. There have been people that have had a bad 2 weeks and have turned it on. If you have like relatively better options, I'd go with them until Zeke shows you that he can do it.
I think the only point that Zeke is going to show people that he can do something is when he gets a goal line touchdown. And then people will be like, oh, like, let's buy back in on Zeke. But it's going to be the goal line touches, are going to be few and far in between. So it's like that week when he scores a touchdown or 2 on the goal line from the 2-yard line, everybody's going to be like, oh, Zeke's back. I won't be one of those people.
Yeah.
So okay, if you are to trade Zeke, what's like a viable person that you could get in return? This is not in your home league where you're going to be ripping somebody off. Like, what is an equivalent to like what you would sell Zeke for? Like, for instance, would you trade Zeke for Treylon Burks?
No.
So I wouldn't.
An example of a trade that I did yesterday, it was kind of a package deal, but gives you an idea. I did Zeke and Hollywood Brown for Gabe Davis. And that's like, I'm looking to upgrade at receiver there over Hollywood, who struggled this year, and obviously Zeke sucks. So, that's value right there if you're looking for a ballpark.
All right, one guy that's been really high is Curtis Samuel. Zeke for Curtis Samuel. Any appeal there?
I might think about it if I can get a little bit more value, honestly.
Okay. So that's where we're looking, is like from a wide receiver perspective, like wide receivers 25 and below, maybe wide receiver 30 and below is what you're looking for.
The thing is, like straight up. Right now, you are selling Zeke at what is likely his
worst.
Yeah.
Like, this is, and that's why I'm saying, like, unless you can get what his preseason value was, because a lot of people, like the people that are like in their home leagues that are like kind of fantasy experts that will like look at rankings at the beginning of the year, like do all this draft research, and then that's it. Like this is what my thoughts are for the rest of the year. Those people you could try and maybe mooch up, because people they do hold on to pre-draft rankings. All of us are a victim of it with certain people, but like I said, you're selling them at his absolute floor. So like, unless you're getting something that you feel good about, maybe just try and ride it out. Especially unless you don't have options, like unless you need a wide receiver or you need a running back to play on week to week. Start off, try and trade for Tony Pollard. That would probably be where I start, is see if you can get Tony Pollard, because no one is going to look at Zeke for Tony Pollard and be, because Zeke in most people's minds is still RB1 in Dallas, just off of name value alone. I mean, so if you can get Pollard, there you go.
If you just look at the guys that are around Zeke in your weekly rankings, Jaden, I mean, Zeke's sitting at 22. I would rather have James Robinson for sure, James Conner for sure, Daryl Henderson probably, Tony Pollard's under there, so I'd rather have him. Like, Damien Harris is close, but like those guys that I listed right there, it's no question that I'd rather have. And then some of the other guys above, like a little bit above, Josh Jacobs, no question. CH, no question. Miles Sanders, probably no question. Like, I mean, even though Miles Sanders is battling it out in the backfield, so is Zeke. Like, I mean, believe it or not, but shit's great. Also, for wide receivers, Terry's sitting at 25. I would trade Zeke for Terry, and then I wouldn't expect them to accept it. And I know that's a little bit homer, but I wouldn't expect it. I would expect them. Like Bateman, if you can get Bateman for Zeke right now,
I was thinking about asking you guys about Pittman.
Like, if you could do that and give up maybe a little more, because I mean, if you could do it for straight up, you've totally fleeced. But just give up like.
And I would say Bateman is a sell high target right now. Like, the guy has 6 catches on the season for 100 and almost 60 yards and 2 long touchdowns, and that's what's really made his fantasy season thus far. And I have him in multiple leagues, so like I can't complain. But like, he is, in my opinion, a sell high candidate. Whereas, like you said, Zeke would be if you're selling him at his floor, at his lowest point of the season, probably. Like, you'd have to imagine something's going to rebound. To what extent, we don't know, but it can't be 5 points a game like that. It has to be better than that. Like, that's future. All right, I got 4 more guys really quickly. Derrick Henry, 16.7 points on the season, 8 points per game. And I think he's had 8 in both those games. Neither game has been double digits. This is something that we were talking about at the beginning of the season with him. And when I preview my preview of the week, I'll get into it a little bit more. But the teams are just stacking the box and making Ryan Tannehill beat them. And with no A.J. Brown there, who is he throwing it to? I know Burks is there. I know Bobby Trees is there. But like, outside of that, you know, the targets aren't the big name guy is not there anymore. You're going to hold on to him. Like, he's still going to be starting. I understand that.
You can get for him.
But if you're looking to trade, that's what I was going to say. If you're looking to trade Derrick Henry, what do you think a viable package would be back? What would you target? You know, if you're like, hey, I want to get a 2-for-1 here, where I'm going to trade Derrick Henry and pick up 2 players, or if you're looking for a straight up trade, like what would you guys say would be a viable return?
Personally, like, I just traded for Derrick Henry in Duck League, which is our main league, and I have a lot of faith in Derrick Henry going forward. And I was one of his biggest haters going into the year, but the hate's gone too far. And I think I mentioned it with Zeke. Game script has been a huge reason why Derrick Henry hasn't put up the production that he did last year, because the Titans have been putting themselves in a hole too quickly. And then it doesn't make any sense to run the ball with Derrick Henry. Like, I mean, especially against fucking Bills.
The Giants game, they were up 13-0.
Yeah, true. I mean, yeah, that's true. But he did get the carries. He did get, like, what, 20?
Yeah.
Over 20 carries. So, like, I'm happy with that volume there, and knowing it's Derrick Henry, that feels pretty good. Like, that after week 1, I was like, okay, like, that was a stinker, but, you know, I have faith because the volume's there. But, like, the volume's going to be there. It's just, like, against the Bills, it was really scary because they just got down quick and they weren't going to hand the ball off. But that could happen a lot to this Titans team this year. Like, there is the potential for them to just, like, if they aren't starting the game, ground and pound with Derrick Henry and keeping the game close, if they go down 2 scores, I mean, you can pretty much...
Game script is huge.
You can pretty much rule out Derrick Henry for the rest of the game. Like, it's not... And especially because he's not catching passes, you know? So, it's a two-sided thing. I just traded for him because I have confidence in the volume, and I only needed him as an RB2. So, it's...
I think if as a I don't have Derrick Henry, but if I was a Derrick Henry owner, I would be circling this week. This has got to be the week that he breaks out. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like this Raiders defense, we've talked about how bad it is, especially at the linebacking position. Like this is a great opportunity for him to have a 25, 30-point game.
100%. What you think of Jaden?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same thing. If you have Henry, obviously don't panic sell. But if, like I said, if you can get the value that you would have gotten or something close to what you would have gotten pre-draft, do it, because it is scary to have him right now, because all the points are making sense. Like, yeah, they were in some negative game scripts last year, but they also had a lot of games where their defense was practically winning them games. And even when A.J. Brown was out, that defense was stepping up to the point where they would have a little bit of a lead at certain points. But last year he started off against Arizona, which their run defense was paper thin all year. But week 1, they looked fantastic, and he had 10 points. And week 2, it might have actually been against Buffalo. No, it was against Seattle.
I thought that was the Seahawks. Yeah, when he boomed for 40.
Yeah, he had 48.
In an overtime win.
So I know that obviously this was week 2, and we didn't get 48 points. We got 8 points.
Just 40 shots.
Like, yeah, I was about to say, just like 3 games of an average running back.
Just a bit outside.
But yeah, it is kind of scary. I would try and like send bullshit offers if you can to like people that are like pissed, like people that have started him, people that drafted him as their RB1 and are livid that he's getting 8 points a game. And they're like, okay, I need to get out from under this, because the people that drafted him, some people were drafting him in like 4 or 5, and they're like, I've got nothing else if he doesn't pan out.
Not so some people. Most people were drafting him at 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Like unless it was Cooper Kupp and J. Jeff jumping up in that draft. But I think Derrick Henry for the rest of his career, we were talking about last week, my rest of season takeaway was that these running backs that we've grown to love, their careers are pretty much done. I mean, the best parts of their careers are done. Dalvin Cook, Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, guys like that. But I think that Derrick Henry is going to be pretty equatable to a Marshawn Lynch later on in his career for the Seahawks. Like, you knew he wasn't going to be explosive in any way. Like, he's beast mode. He's just going to rumble and tumble down the field. He's going to get the volume. He's not going to get the catches. And Marshawn Lynch later on in his career was still Marshawn Lynch, but he was RB2 Marshawn Lynch and not RB1 Marshawn Lynch. So I think going forward, maybe not yet, but I think Derrick Henry is more RB2 territory now. I don't know.
The lifespan of a running back. There's nothing like it in the NFL.
I mean, Swift, guys above him on your rankings: Swift, Aaron Jones, Joe Mixon, Austin Eckler, Dalvin Cook, Austin Eckler, Saquon, Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey. I'd feel better with all those guys. Chubb is close, but yeah, I'd feel better with Najee. I'd have Najee. Yeah, it's close, but phew, something different. All right, what's your next guy?
Kyle Pitts. He has 7.8 points combined this year between 2 games. The guy's never scored a touchdown on American soil. He's only scored a touchdown in the London game. Drake London had a great game last week, and Drake London's had way more targets than Kyle Pitts has had in these first 2 games. Is this guy like that good? Like, I mean, seriously, like this guy's got drafted probably in like the 3rd or 4th round this year, and he's probably like about that maybe 5th or 6th round last year. He's always been taken as like a top 5 tight end. Last year we were like, okay, rookie season, but like I know he's physical, I know he's big, I know he's an absolute freak, but like is he just not good?
I think he's good.
No,
I think he's really good.
It's Arthur Smith, and I don't understand what his deal is, because like
Mariota
seemingly he wanted a real wide receiver, and if you wanted a real wide receiver, it's not like he inherited Pitts from the previous regime. Pitts was his first draft pick in Atlanta.
Right.
Jamar Chase was still available when they picked Kyle Pitts. So if you wanted to play this game where you wanted to have a bunch of good receivers, like obviously you're having fun with Drake London right now, despite the fact that Jalen Ramsey, I know he plays from the slot, but Drake London played a little bit from the slot too on Sunday. he still had 11 targets. Kyle Pitts had 3. So if you wanted to get a wide receiver involved, I don't know why you don't take Jamar Chase in the first place, but Arthur Smith comes out after the game and somebody asks, hey, why is your number 4 overall pick from 2 years ago, who's like generationally good, getting 3 targets? And he's like, this isn't fantasy football. We're trying to win games.
You got so defensive.
And the immediate response to that would be, well, then why aren't you winning games? Because clearly, whatever you're thinking right now, whatever it is that you're trying to do that isn't fantasy football, isn't working. So maybe let's incorporate a little fantasy football into the Falcons game plan next week, because Kyle Pitts.
To be fair, the Falcons have looked a lot better than we thought they were going to be.
They have, and I totally agree.
Better than the version of the Falcons with Kyle Pitts catching 1,000 yards last year.
Also, just want to say this real quick. Can we talk about the fact that team in our power rankings, number 32 and 31 are playing each other this week, and 30 and 29 are playing each other this week? How does that happen? I would shoot myself if I was in the part of the country where the first one of those games plays at 1 and the other one of those games plays at 4. I don't know what I would do.
Dude, we have so many Bears fans down here, because it's like we don't have a professional sports team in Kentucky, so like the closest cities are Cincinnati and Chicago. So there's a shit ton of Bears fans down here. And all of the fraternity listens to the pod, which is awesome. But they fucking hate us for putting the Bears last. Like, they hated us for putting the Bears like second to last in the power rankings. But now, and then I was like, dude, all I want you to do, I was like, it's this simple, because they were just yelling and yelling. I was like, it's this simple. One thing. Name one team that's worse.
So here's my thing with this. If you have that big a deal about it, this is your week. This is your week to show why you're not the worst team in football. Out of all 4 of those teams, 2 of them are going to be victorious, and 2 of them are not. I mean, burying
the toilet bowl.
Whoever doesn't win these 2 games is definitely 2 of the worst teams in football, in my opinion. I know Seattle won. I understand that. Right. But that game was a crumble it up, throw it away. That game never happened. But yeah, you're arguing which teams are worse. Like that's so bad.
And but really, the difference.
What kind of hope have they given you? Like that
Chicago. Like, as far as when I came into the preseason power rankings, like the way I was looking at it was Chicago and Houston are in their own tier of hopelessness. Like, there is nothing except for Bryce Young and Will Anderson. That is all that matters for those 2 teams. Whereas Seattle, like, okay, there's pieces here. There's DK Metcalf. There's maybe something. You've got a couple guys here and there. Atlanta, you've got some weapons that are cool, and you had AJ Terrell play well. Like, they were bad. They were obviously in the bottom tier of but Chicago and Houston were like in their own tier of like, they have multiple position groups that could be considered the worst in the NFL.
And their reason for them not being the worst team in football, and I've heard this more than once from more than one fan, it's because of their cap space next year, which makes no sense at all about how good the team is built currently.
Yeah. We're doing dynasty power rankings, sure.
Yeah, exactly. Do that. I'm like, what are you talking about, dude?
And I do like the way, and I know this has completely moved away from what we were talking about fantasy wise.
No, because actually, really quickly, the last person I have is Darnell Mooney, who has 2.4 points.
Perfect. Let's fucking go. Yeah. Doing segues without knowing it. Let's go, man.
But the way Chicago has done things and the way that Ryan Poles has done things, I got to say I admire it to a certain degree, because the way that their cap set up was they could take this year and just be like, you know what, Justin Fields, figure it the fuck out, because next year we're going to have like $100 million plus, and if you show us enough, you can reap those benefits next year. You can, you might have Will Anderson on the defensive side, or a brand new shiny wide receiver, in addition to multiple vets on the offensive line, a veteran receiver, a tight end that's worth more than Cole Kmet. Like, you could reap those benefits if you show it this year. Now, the question is he going to show it? And if they are picking number 1 overall, is Justin Fields going to be enough to make them stay away from Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, who I can promise you, once draft time rolls around, everybody's going to want them to go number 1, because that's how it goes every year. When there's a quarterback that's that good, they're going to be pushed over the generational talent that is Will Anderson.
It would be extremely comical if CJ Stroud did go to the Bears, that would be absolutely ridiculous because then you'd have both him and Fields on the same team. But the other thing to keep in mind is the division they play in. And I know this is a little bit biased, but like I do like the Vikings. I think that they're set up at least probably for the next 3 years. I mean, we'll see what happens after Kirk, but you've still got Rodgers in Green Bay. You know, I still think he's probably got another 2 or 3 years there. And the Lions, I think the Lions are in a better shape right now than the Bears, absolutely moving forward. So those 3 teams are already a leg ahead of you. I know you have a ton of space. What wide receivers are out there next year?
No clue, dude.
After you've got Smith and Jigba, which I'm not taking for Justin. I think
no, I'm talking about in free agency. Like if you're gonna go out there and get like a new shiny big time wide receiver, like,
I don't even
who's
know
out there? Because I feel like most of them are on rookie contracts.
OBJ.
Or they just got traded or signed this year. Yeah, I don't think there's any big name wide receivers that are out there right now.
Yeah, but
other thing, like I said,
did we think anybody was going to be available this offseason? Devonte Adams became available. Tyreek Hill became available. AJ Brown became available. Maybe not in free agency, but somebody can come available through something.
Who still needs a contract?
Ever contract.
Yes, but
who still needs a contract? I mean, those contracts have basically been filled, though. You know, like I mean.
That was what I was going to say. Is that actually enhances my argument? Is that all these guys got signed this past year, and a lot of the other guys are still on that rookie contract. Like the next one that's due for a contract is probably Jefferson,
and then it's Jamar Chase, and then it's like, are we getting fucking ridiculous? Like,
Henry Ruggs.
Okay, nice Henry Ruggs appearance. On that note, okay, let's talk about Darnell Mooney.
Would you guys just drop Darnell Mooney?
Absolutely.
If you've got something that you feel confident enough on,
I wouldn't even feel confident about it. I would if I feel half confident about it. If I feel a quarter of the way confident about it, I'm adding somebody over Darnell Mooney. I'm not rostering any Bears except David Montgomery right now. Like David Montgomery is what's gonna like carry their season for the rest of the year, and it's gonna look ugly because they're gonna be running David Montgomery in a situation where it doesn't make sense, but that's what they're going to do because they've got to, win football games somehow, and they don't have the receiving weapons to do it. So, yeah.
In my 12-man league, I just looked, and Darnell Mooney got picked in the 6th round.
I didn't draft
to bite the bullet.
Who didn't draft Darnell Mooney this year? Who didn't?
Me. I said I wasn't taking a single Bears player, and I
Darnell Mooney a lot. I don't know if I got the chance to draft. So good on me.
There we go. Fuck yeah. But yeah, totally safe to drop Darnell Mooney. If anybody on the list that you just listed is safe to drop, it's Darnell Mooney for sure. So, all right, let's dive into our week 3 fantasy rankings. And I'll start off with the quarterbacks. And leading the list off this week is a guy who I really, really made a case for against in the episode with Jaden this past week. But it's going to be Jalen Hurts, dude. And you know why?
Holy shit. You got him at 1?
Got him at 1. Josh Allen would have been 1, but I mean, Jalen Hurts looked really fucking good.
This man became a believer in Jalen Hurts in the span of about 20
hours. I'm not a believer, but this is fantasy football, dog. Like,
Bro, you got him at 1.
We're trying to win games. This is
bro.
Football.
What the fuck are you talking about? This is fantasy football. He runs the ball. He has the potential to go over 100 yards easy. And this Washington defense, I thought that it was going to return to top 5 for him. Maybe. Why was I such a fucking idiot? I don't know. But this is not happening. This won't happen. We can't. What's that quote from Saban? We couldn't stop shit or a tin can horn or some shit. I don't know. But I'm very upset. We can't stop anything, bro. I don't know. We could have like a whole army of elderly people try to run through, and all of them would go 90 yards untouched to the end zone. So that's how bad our defense is right now. Jalen Hurts is going to be able to throw the ball if he wants to. And I don't want to hear jack shit about it because our secondary just sucks. So he's going to throw the ball. And if he wants to run the ball, he can do that too because we've been getting smacked in that. So, he can really – the world is his oyster in this game, in my opinion.
The one thing I will question, you have Mahomes at 5,
Yeah.
but you have Herbert at 3. Was this done
Okay, so
prior
this is
to-
if Herbert plays.
because I'll say this right now, and I was talking about it with my buddies, and like crazier things have happened, but that line was literally cut in half. Vegas moved that line from Chargers by 7 to Chargers by 3.5. They know he's not playing. There's no way they do that and leave that big of a cut that spread that is a significant amount. There's only one way that they do that, and that's because they know he's not playing.
Yeah, but in a game that Herbert isn't
Like
playing,
I said, crazier things
in a
have
game
happened.
that Herbert isn't playing, I'm probably taking Jacksonville on the money line.
Yeah, I would probably
So
take Jacksonville.
if the spread's -3.5,
Chase Daniel earning that $1 million,
yeah, like
though.
I think with a confirmation that Justin Herbert's out, I think that spread goes to +3, or
I don't think it'll move that much.
Yeah, I was about to say it's really hard for it to shift.
And they're home.
Yeah.
It's already made its move.
Not to mention
okay.
Jacksonville.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah. Wait, what?
Jaden?
What'd you
What?
say, Jaden?
I just said it's Jacksonville. Like, it's not something you feel like you're going to move 10 points regardless of who's playing or not.
Yeah, I'm buying in on the Jags this year. I mean, obviously through our power rankings, but that's if Justin Herbert plays. But honestly, as I look at this, I don't feel great about it, especially after what Mitchell said in his injury analysis. Like that throwing motion, I mean, that's gonna tweak that
Can't
every
breathe.
time.
Yeah, I mean,
like, that's gonna tweak that. So I don't know.
And it's not it's not as much as it's painful as it is that it's tough for you to breathe.
Uncomfortable.
When that's happening.
Like, I mean, we saw it with Breeze. Breeze really struggled when he has had his rib injuries, and he eventually had surgery on that. And then this is not the ribs, but Baker. I mean, he was uncomfortable all last year and looked like a completely different quarterback. Russell Wilson, like shit that makes you uncomfortable will make you look like 10 times worse of a quarterback. So don't underestimate that.
Speaking of which, where do you have Russ this week?
Yes. Yeah, so I've
wait.
got Hurts at 1, like I mentioned, Josh Allen at 2, and then as we go down the list, somebody I really like this week, number 7, Tua, obviously, going up against Buffalo. A little bit of a,
insane.
I mean,
You are absolutely insane to like him in
Okay.
fantasy
This is it.
against Buffalo.
I don't necessarily have to like Tua,
This is
versus the Buffalo offenses or Buffalo defense this week. I'm more like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle catching it, taking it 50 yards to the house, and contributing a lot of stats to Tua. I think that's going to happen all year. And this is going to be the hottest take that I've had all year, and you guys are going to fucking bury me for this. But Tua could win Offensive Player of the Year.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, it's week 2, and he's got
Because he
got-
won't win MVP if he has these crazy stats. Because they'll be like, it was because he had Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. But I mean, with the offense that he's set up in and feeding those two guys, and if those guys, like we mentioned, are going to finish as top 10 wide receivers this year, both of them, I think there's an easy chance that Tua could finish as Offensive Player of the Year this year.
Yeah, but the problem.
I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this really quickly, and then I'll let Jaden get to his point. This is the game. This is the game where you prove if you're in that upper tier of quarterbacks in the AFC or not. Because last week was great, not taking anything away from him. Fourth quarter comeback, 28 points, absolutely incredible. How can you follow that up? What do you do after you're on that big of a high? And now you're going against a better team, albeit at home, but you're going against a better team. And that's the big question mark, because the great quarterbacks in this league can do it week in and week out, no matter who the opponent is. Can Tua do it? And this is, I don't want to label it as like a Super Bowl for him, but this might be the biggest game of Tua Tagovailoa's career on Sunday. Hands down.
I'm not writing Tua off if he does poorly against a really good Buffalo Bills defense.
I'm not either, but I'm not putting him in the conversation with Allen, Lamar Jackson, Mahomes, Herbert, even Burrow. I'm not putting him in those conversations. I know you were going to say that as soon as I said that. I knew you were going to say that, and that's because of what's happened over the first 2 weeks.
Yeah. So,
but I'm still a Burrow.
Well, I still think it's outlandish that you put those two words in the same sentence. MVP is a quarterback award. So if a quarterback's going to win an award, they're going to win MVP. Offensive Player of the Year has kind of become a pass catchers, running backs award.
I understand
just
that.
recently, like guys, because running backs and wide
Jonathan
receivers
Taylor.
rack up the stats,
Mhm.
and then if the quarterback racks up stats, he's going to win MVP. So I find it hard to believe. And Tua's
But
obviously not going to put up
MVP
offensive
is, we
player of the year
learned
numbers
very
without-
clearly how the MVP process worked last year. It's a bunch of sports writers who vote very objectively versus subjectively. No, subjectively versus objectively. And they're
Right.
not,
But-
Tua's not going to win MVP. It doesn't matter. Like,
Tua's not an offensive player of the
he,
year.
He will if he keeps doing what he's done.
I don't think. I
What
think
are
a
the
lot
odds
of the
of that happening?
case,
That's
the
the question.
case is
That's
going
what
to
I'm
be
saying.
from all the sports writers that he is not the most valuable player on that team. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle are the most valuable players on that team. Like, yeah, I totally agree. That's why I think he'll put up undeniable stats though, and he could win Offensive
think he's
Player of the
gonna
Year
have
with
five-
that. That's why I think he'll win Offensive Player of the Year. I
Which is
totally
crazy.
understand that quarterback is MVP reward. Totally understand, but they won't give it to Tua. They won't, and it'll be.
Which is wild because in that argument, the team he's going against, Diggs is probably a better receiver than both of those guys. But Diggs doesn't get anywhere near the consideration that those two guys get.
Yeah,
because
well,
of the sport.
now, I mean, if he keeps doing what he did.
And the crazy thing is, we're still ignoring it. I mean, right now, Tyler has Devonte Adams in front of him, 2 spots. And I know he's got a tough matchup, but, like, it's just so weird. Like, he's put up, like 81 points in 2 weeks? And, like, okay, Cooper Kupp and Justin Jefferson are still being held in a higher regard, at least fantasy-wise, than what Diggs is, which is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's a matchup thing because I'm imagining Xavier Howard's going to be on him,
Yeah.
and I don't
Well,
like that
thing
match. I
is,
don't like that
Xavier
matchup as
Howard
much as I like
Doesn't
Devonte Adams.
Xavier Howard doesn't really shadow because he can't really shadow to begin with. I mean, like, he'll probably play his side.
Byron Jones is also a
and
tough
I
matchup,
do
though.
believe that Miami secondary, I do think will.
Yeah, and that's why I have Diggs a little bit lower.
Yeah, I agree.
Because of that exactly. But I just look at this game as being so pivotal, not only for this season, but, like, once again, back to that word confidence. You want to get some confidence, you go out there, you ball out this week, Tua, and there's going to be talks of him in that, what you said, Offensive Player of the Year or MVP case. Absolutely. If they go out and win this game, there's no doubt, and he has a good game. Like, it's not just because of a defensive slugfest or something. Then yeah, I have no reason to stop being because I'm still on the Tua is not good side. I'm still on that side, and not good is a bad way to put it, but he's not in that.
Not
I don't like
as good
Tua,
as I
but
think
it's-
that he is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, like,
He's in the Kirk Cousins, Carson Wentz
Derek
category
Carr.
still. Do you want to get up into that once
Speaking
again
of,
that upper echelon of
Derek
quarterbacks?
Carr stinks. And while I was like, the attitude, he's been awful. He has a 40 through 2 games, 46
O-line.
46 PFF passer
O-line.
grade. 46.
O-line. And
He's
very
been
tough
terrible.
matchups. I think that's why I have him at
O-line.
8 this week, because
Cardinals
Yeah.
are not a tough match.
I mean, just the way that they came back, it kind of demoralized.
Look at what Mahomes did.
Yeah.
Week 1 to that defense.
All right. I like Derek Carr this week a lot. I have him at 8, right behind Tua.
I think this week, yeah, I agree because I expect a shootout in
and
Music
they
City
need
for sure. I mean,
and the
those
Raiders
defenses are so
need-
bad.
Mitchell
they
Trubisky
win.
has a 69.9 PFF passing grade.
If the Raiders don't win this week too, I mean, they're pretty much toast. I got Derek Carr at 8 this week. You mentioned Russell Wilson. I do have him at 10, which is lower-ish than a lot of other people, but I don't know. This Russell Wilson isn't the same Russell Wilson. I can't believe they just gave him a contract too. Like, I know that he's looked pretty much like Russell to you guys, in your opinion, but, like, it's just too many bad vibes coming out of Denver right now. I memean, Jerry Jeudy's hurt this week. Daniel Hackett doesn't know how to call plays. Devonte Williams is just going to get better and better. Like, I don't like Russell Wilson at all this year, just for the rest of the year.
Also,
Derek Carr is 31st in PFF passer grade right now. 31st.
is he ahead of Trey Lance?
He is ahead of Justin Fields and Justin Fields only.
He's not even ahead. Well, I was thinking Trey Lance. I didn't know if he was in there as well.
Oh
Same.
my God.
Two omissions you didn't have, which are normally guys that are in this top 15, probably even top 10, that I don't disagree. I kind of agree with you on this, is Brady and Rodgers. Neither one in the top 15.
Yeah, because I mean, yeah,
Rodgers 15.
we just haven't figured. I mean, we saw Rodgers last week. I mean, Aaron Jones truly does look
Rodgers
like.
is at 15. My bad.
Yeah, no, you're good. But I mean, they're lower than they usually are. I mean, 12 and 15. I mean, they're usually getting up there towards the 10 range, bottom 10s, before 12 at least. But I think Tom Brady.
Let me
does
know
have
if you had Jared Goff ahead of Rodgers and Brady at any given week during the season.
Yeah,
Anything.
right. I mean, after what Jalen Hurts did to that Minnesota secondary, I feel fantastic about Jared Goff this week at 13. But yeah, I just got wrapped up with my quarterback rankings for the week, and with that, we'll hop into Jaden's RBs for the week, and he's just gonna list off a couple of notable ones for us. So take it away, my man.
Yeah, I don't really. One matchup that I like a lot this week is obviously David Montgomery versus Houston. We talked about earlier the toilet bowl. I think that the Bears need to score points, and throwing the ball does not seem to be their method of choice right now. So I think they're going to end up running the ball a lot with Montgomery. He had 115 yards on 15 carries last week, just didn't get in the end zone. Probably his point total obviously would have looked a lot better if he did get in the end zone. And that snap share that I was a little worried about as a Dave Montgomery owner between him and Khalil Herbert was 15-4 last week. So it seems as if there's starting to be a little bit more of a discrepancy between those two. Daryl Henderson, I still like him. I know that Cam Akers, it started to creep back towards average last week, but I still think that they seem to like him enough to keep him coming on the field. And Arizona, I still don't have faith in what their defense brings to the table.
One thing I'll say about that is I think
I
totally agree with that. Akers, I think, is more of the gadget guy now, and Henderson is the bell cow back. Continue.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about Akers, though? Like, are you starting him?
Dropping him. I'm personally comfortable dropping Akers. Like I said, and this is before we got cut off, but the most commonly made mistake in fantasy football, I feel, is that people hold on to their late round draft picks way too long. Like, you took the guys that you took past like round 9 or 10. I mean, I'd feel comfortable dropping most of those guys. Like, I mean, depending on how confident you are in a particular fella.
Akers was like a 4th round pick.
Yeah, no, 100%. And just in general, like, people are too late dropping their late round picks, but like Cam Akers, even though you put a 4th round pick into him, the performance has balanced it out. Like a 10th, if you're going a guy in the 12th round in your fantasy draft and he kind of just had a few like obvious sputtering weeks to start, like okay, you can drop him and feel good about it. But like Cam Akers has been so bad so far that it balances itself out, and I feel comfortable dropping Cam Akers for guys that have shown a lot more than he has so far this year. And we haven't seen a healthy Cam Akers since he tore his Achilles, really.
Yeah, well, it depends on what your waiver situation is. Obviously, if you've got somebody like a Jeff Wilson, or like let's say tomorrow Najee Harris tears his ACL and Jalen Warren is it for the rest of the year. If Jalen Warren's available, you drop whoever you feel the least confident about on your team. But like if you're just dropping Cam Akers because he didn't score enough, let me just drop him and pick up the best player that's available on waivers for this week. I feel like that's just giving up too early to a certain degree because you're just dropping him to drop him. But like if it comes down to making tough decisions, then obviously you have to do what you have to do. But yeah, that's pretty much it for my running back rankings this week.
James Conner,
Michael Carter,
James
Conner,
Conner.
Breece Hall.
Yeah, I don't have anything. I mean, I think their point total was even last week, but Carter got the catches, Breece Hall got the touchdown. it's going to be like this at least for a couple more weeks until I think Breece Hall
Is this what
eventually
you
will
expected from Breece
take
Hall?
over the job. It's just right. No, I don't. I mean, I don't think
Yeah.
anybody expected.
I mean, we
this Breece
mentioned,
Hall
me and
to be,
Tyler
like,
were kind of
completely
mentioned
honest. I mean, 'cause if
MCJ
you
during
did,
the offseason, but I didn't think it would be this. Like,
I mean, I mentioned Damien Pierce over Breece Hall, but
I didn't.
Pierce hasn't been all that great either.
has been terrible.
I was about to say Pierce has been a colossal. Has gone from being like whatever you would rather, like whatever you would usually have a third round running back on the worst team in the league, to should you be taking him with your sixth pick, like with your sixth round pick, to like not Dropsville, but like if like I said, if you've got options on waivers, you're probably thinking about it right now because he's not been very good, and you probably depending on how
Damien
early you
Pierce is
drafted, you
definitely
didn't
one of
put
those
that much
guys
of
that
investment into him.
I'm dropping for a hot ad on waivers. It doesn't matter who it is. Like, I mean, obviously it matters who it is. Obviously take some consideration. But out of the top guys available on waivers, like, I don't know, Curtis Samuel, for example, or like who were some of the guys that were on waivers this week?
I mean,
Yeah.
like maybe last week, Jeff Wilson.
But any of the
obviously
hot
be the
waiver
one
wire ads,
mine just because
I'm picking up and not
Rashad Perryman.
of his. Yeah, like right now, there's not too many like hot waiver wire ads. But on the Breece Hall, Michael Carter thing, Michael Carter PFF grade is significantly better than Breece Hall. He's running the ball better. He's working better in the passing game. So I still think Breece Hall is a more talented player. It just seems kind of like a case of like just a rookie being a rookie and just needing time to adjust. And you usually don't expect that out of running backs because like these guys, like we've seen in consecutive years, we've had like a Najee Harris and guys like that come in and hit the ground running. So to see a running back, kind of like the tackle thing where we saw Rashawn Slater and Tristan Wirfs come in, and when we see a tackle have a normal year, we're like, what is going on? I think it's just rookie stuff for Breece Hall, and maybe once Zach Wilson gets back, they're like, okay, we're going to start moving towards what's the future here.
Last thing about your RB
which is
rankings,
hopefully Breece Hall.
Personally, feels really low for James Conner.
Yeah, he's practiced.
He's questionable.
He has been questionable. There was talks about whether, who should you pick up, or Daryl Williams, and
okay,
yeah,
okay.
It's going to be a game time decision, so that's kind of
yeah. Okay, cool. Tyler, give it to us, man.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp at 1. We were talking about Cooper Kupp. I mean, he's probably going to be the wide receiver run every single week. I mean, it's not even matchup based anymore, but you putting him in a matchup against the Cardinals, I mean, 40 points is not out of the realm for this guy in this matchup. I mean, I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but like if it did happen, would we all be that surprised? I mean, I'd be like, damn, yeah, another Cooper Kupp type week.
I'm confident in 25.
Yeah.
Like I feel
at some point you just gotta stop doubting it. Like at some point you just gotta be like, I mean, we did it all of last year. Like, you gotta stop doing it. I'm doing it personally. I've been doing it since last year. I'm still doing
it. Once I traded Robert Woods, I stopped doubting it. As long as I had Robert Woods, I was like, what's going on? This can't keep happening. It can't. I do. Like, you know what? He's better.
I have Amon-Ra St. Brown at 5, and that's something that we can get into. But, I mean, this guy continues to do it week in and week out. I think he's had 9 straight, maybe 10 straight games now with 8 catches or more, something crazy like that, dating back to last year. At some point, we're talking about Cooper Kupp. You got to stop doubting him. When are we going to stop doubting Amon-Ra St. Brown? The guy just continues to put up points, and we saw, these Philly wide receivers, even though they didn't put up the biggest numbers, I mean, they still had great games. Even Gus Watkins had a pretty good game against the Vikings secondary. So as high as I was on the Vikings secondary after the Packers game, I've definitely come back down to earth with them as a whole, rightfully so. But yeah, I love Amon-Ra this week. Michael Pittman at 8. This Chiefs defense is still, it's still got its holes. It's still got its question marks. I mean, I think that they are vastly improved. I still think that this is still a solid defense. But if the Colts are ever going to save a season, if they're ever going to show that their offense is worth something, because all they've really done is score points in one quarter. And it was the fourth quarter against the Texans. They had 6 points going into that fourth quarter. And then they scored 2 touchdowns to tie it up and go to overtime. Other than that, they've had 2 field goals. That's it. So that's why I'm like, you know what, if the Colts offense is going to do anything, it's got to be this week. So I have Michael Pittman pretty high. Couple guys later on down that I have pretty high. I have Drake London at 15. Oof. This guy showed last week that what did you say, Jaden? He had 12 targets, I think, last week. The guy is a baller, and he's a physical presence. He's going against, in my opinion, a pretty porous Seahawks secondary. So I really like Drake London this week. I've got Garrett Wilson at 23. This guy, if you can get him, go and get him right now. I agree.
I think you might have missed it, though. I mean, obviously, when he has 6 points in week 1 as a rookie, you don't really feel great about trading for him. But after he has 30, dude,
I also think
people buy in on rookies when they
unlike
explode,
a lot of other rookies, Garrett Wilson was drafted a lot. I tried to go pick him up this week in a lot of leagues, and he'd already been drafted. So it's like, yeah, if he's available, though.
But what I'm saying as a trade candidate, I would even go with him in a trade candidate. Like,
I don't know.
Yeah. Like I would, I love this guy.
Like obviously the price,
yeah.
But dude, Garrett Wilson in Dynasty. I mean, he was the number 2 receiver drafted in this class. Was a lot of people's wide receiver 1 in this class. Should take over. Like Elijah Moore is good, but Elijah Moore is going to end up falling back into a slot role. Garrett Wilson is a number 1, can do it all wide receiver. This guy got Julio Jones comps coming out, which I didn't really entirely see, but to each their own. But he's legit good, and if Zach Wilson is also legit good, Garrett Wilson's going to be his guy for, however long Zach Wilson is there. So dynasty-wise, could be a steal. And I mean, I remember seeing Garrett Wilson, like in our dynasty league that we did.
Yeah.
Garrett Wilson was getting drafted in like the 60s. Like when a number 10 overall pick is available at wide receiver, like that feels stupid.
And I think it's because he was on the Jets. I mean, that's really and truly the only reason. But I think once Zach Wilson comes back, it's only going to elevate his status that much more.
Also, Elijah Moore is still there. Like, I love Elijah Moore still.
I agree.
I love Elijah Moore. Like, I think he's still.
Corey Davis is there too.
Yeah, I think Elijah Moore actually offers a threat to being wide receiver 1 over Garrett Wilson pretty easily. But I mean, right now it's Garrett Wilson.
I don't know. I think
right now it's Garrett Wilson.
Talent-wise, this guy is absolutely incredible. Quick other little notes. I do have Mike Williams at 21. I have him a lot lower than some other rankings. I just feel like with Herbert presumably being out, I feel like that's his status is going to take a bit of a hit there. And not only that, did you know that the Jags, I know it's 2 weeks, so we don't need to jump the gun and go crazy on it. But the Jags defense is top 10 in scoring, top 10 in total D, and top 10 in takeaways. Quietly. Agreed.
I played in DM Washington.
Carson Wentz is what, second in the league in yards?
He's not first in picks, actually. I was wrong when I said that. Matt Ryan actually leads the league. Isn't that funny? And he leads it by 2 more picks. So
probably over Jameis.
Matt Ryan threw 3 picks on Sunday, which put him 2 above Carson Wentz. The guy who was supposedly supposed to be a replacement for Carson Wentz, but that's turned out to be a real shitter, Indianapolis. Yeah, I'm happy. So fuck you guys.
Last 2 things. I have Terry McLaurin at 25 and Curtis Samuel at 28, and I probably got Jahan Dotson in the 30s as well. I think this number 1 receiver is completely up for grabs. I like Terry. I think Terry's great. But what I've seen from Curtis Samuel in these first 2 weeks and what I've seen from the rookie and Jahan Dotson, it's a total crapshoot when you're looking to start a Washington receiver week in and week out.
Oh.
Any one of those 3 can be great, but any one of those 3 can also probably lay a dud and not be as great, which is why I have them both in the 20s and Jahan Dotson in 30s, because I don't know what's going to happen. I really and truly have no idea who's going to come in week in and week out and be the number 1 receiver.
Terry was one of those guys that got a huge contract. He was one of the receivers.
For sure.
And he's our number 1 guy. Like, come on. Like, I mean, he is – you could start him week in and week out and feel confident about it, in my opinion. But when it comes to Curtis Samuel and Jahan Dotson, I mean, total crapshoot there. Like, I have a lot of faith in both of them to both be viable options because I think this offense is really cooking. Like, finally, now that we have, like, an actual professional quarterback running our offense, I mean, it's amazing to see what the offense can do with a guy like Curtis Samuel, who we paid a bunch of money to last offseason just to get injured and not play last year. But now, I mean, he's looking to step into like a Deebo Samuel type role. So I like Jahan Dotson too, plenty. Obviously, he's a little touchdown dependent to start the year, which kind of scares me. I have more faith in Curtis Samuel overall, but I got to disagree with you there. Terry is clear-cut number one.
Curtis Samuelson, wide receiver 10 in fantasy this year.
Noted.
Just saying. And then the last guy that I have on my list is Perryman at 30. Brady's got to throw to somebody this week. Julio's not looking like he's going to play. Godwin's already been ruled out.
Beasley.
I know Russell Gage is there. I know Cole Beasley got signed. I mean, I know that they signed him this past week, I think, to the practice squad. Russell Gage didn't practice today, so he's possibly not going to be playing this week. So I know Scotty Miller's there, but like Brady's got to, Brady's got to throw to somebody. He had that touchdown to Perryman last week, so maybe that sparks something there. And we've seen Perryman. This is my favorite word, you guys know. He shows flashes. So maybe Brady finds some chemistry with him this week, and that's why I have him at 30. But yeah, overall, I had some guys a little bit lower than I think some people anticipated, and I definitely had some guys a little bit higher than people anticipated for sure.
Sweet. All right. One guy I don't see on this list, and just to clear things up, Robert Woods. Welcome to Dumpsville. Done. I'm dropping Robert Woods. I'm picking up Traylon Burks if I can, because
I'm dropping Robert Woods. Well, the thing is, Robert Woods is like when you're down in the 30s and 40s and 50s as far as like rest of season rankings go, if you aren't shooting for guys that could eventually get you 15 a game or something like, or just save you a week or something, then you're doing it wrong. And Robert Woods is never, ever, 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 at least in this offense, going
another
to be that
omission,
guy.
Lazard from this
I
list,
agree.
not a top 30 receiver for you this week.
It was between Lazard and Perryman, funny enough, going against each other in the same game. But I have Lazard right at like 31, 32.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, he got the touchdown last week. Didn't get a whole ton of volume, but I felt confident that he got that touchdown. And doing the ayahuasca touchdown celebration made me feel good about his chemistry with Aaron Rodgers. So obviously, if he's doing that, he feels pretty good about his relationship with A-Rod. So
the other guy that I almost threw in there as well is Noah Brown. Definitely shown some chemistry with Cooper Rush. I don't know what's going to happen once Gallup comes back.
CD 2.0.
But for right now, I mean, Noah Brown would be a viable flex option in my opinion this week.
Yeah, and when he got it, only reason I say that is when he catches the ball, I think it's CeeDee Lamb every time because I have CeeDee Lamb in like 3 leagues, but it's not Noah Brown.
Yeah, and 85 and 88 are definitely tough to decipher, especially when both have long hair.
Yeah, exactly. It's a pain in the ass. But all right, let's move on from our fantasy talk this week, and let's dive into our week 3 picks. And just like last week, we're not going to go down the list here. We'll recap it next week and how we did, just like we did at the beginning episode this week. But we're just going to go ahead and pick a headliner game for each of us and some things to watch in that game, and also a spread alert. But before we start, we are going to do a little segment where we pick the most surprising team so far in the National Football League. And this could be good or bad. Like surprisingly bad, surprisingly good. You can take it any route you want. So, Tyler, you want to take the reins, man?
I'm probably going to go surprisingly bad. And I know it's been with some injuries, but I mean, the Indianapolis Colts. This is a team that we as a pod collectively picked to win the AFC South. And to be honest, they definitely still could because of how bad this division is. But one loss, one tie. I mean, like we said, they had one quarter basically where they've put up points. And Frank Reich might just not be it. And I think that's what this is coming down to. I know And then the other thing is, like, maybe you want to invest in a younger quarterback, because going older quarterback to older quarterback to older quarterback is clearly not working out for them. You've got the best running back in football on your team, and you're not even really utilizing him, which is why I question whether or not Frank Reich's going to be there after this year. So yeah, this is, in my opinion, been the most surprising, the most disappointing team in the entire NFL this year. And I think we had them in our bottom tier of the rankings this week. And I was making a pitch for that because everything about this team is just, it just screams, top 10 pick next year. That's what I see. And that was not, I mean, people were saying this might be a dark horse pick in the AFC to possibly sneak in and make a AFC championship.
Jonathan Taylor, MVP candidate, heard all that. Yep. That's over. Dude, it's got to be Frank Reich, right? I mean, he's just a piece of shit. They have a playoff-ready roster, a clearly playoff-ready roster. And they can't get it done.
This line also is not
good.
What I thought this line was going to be. This line is missed. They've missed so many assignments.
It's the left spot. They've still got it's one dude Nelson? And Bernard Raymond. I can't remember the vet's name at left tackle.
Yeah.
Figured.
Hey, you didn't say tackle. You didn't specify tackle or guard until I heard you say tackle or guard, and then I was like, never mind. So fuck your chuckle.
What's his name?
Matt Pryor or Brady
Smith? NFL.
Okay.
Matt Pryor. Yeah.
Jaden, how about you go ahead with your surprising team, good or bad?
Honestly, I was like, I think I had everything ready because we whittled it down from the most surprising 2-0 and 1-1 and 0-2, and then the least. And I didn't figure out my most surprising team, but I'm probably going to go with Philadelphia. It's a surprisingly good. I didn't think it would be this good this soon. I thought it's not a lot of newness, but plugging a new receiver in when you've been a predominantly run-heavy offense that really hasn't been able to support one fantasy relevant wide receiver or one fantasy relevant pass catcher last year, and now you've got AJ Brown getting a lot of targets, and this team is clicking on all cylinders. Like we talked about it before the show, Philadelphia just came out and outclassed Minnesota in all aspects of the game, it felt like. And they've got another opportunity to do it this week against Washington, be 3-0, which I don't think it's probably going to be a group of 2 to 3 teams that are going to be 3-0 going into next week. Obviously, the Giants feel like that team that's probably not going to be undefeated next week because they're the Giants and they're undefeated somehow. But there will be a big win. Yeah, I know, but it still just doesn't.
One team's going to be undefeated between the Bills and Dolphins.
I mean, it's that was going to. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, Eagles definitely. And surprising.
And I agree. I was looking at it from a value standpoint, and they had 33-1 odds to win the Super Bowl at the beginning of the year, and I was like, man, that's an absolute steal. Should have jumped on it. Didn't. What it is.
I talked about them. I said that they could probably win the NFC.
I said they would play in the NFC Championship. I said 2 out of the 3 teams between the 49ers, Vikings, and Eagles would play in the NFC Championship. And one of those looks pretty good. The 49ers still might end up getting mad. I don't know about the Vikings. We'll see. But the Eagles are definitely, in my opinion, they're the best team in the NFC.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I mean, it's pretty clear right now, too. I mean, they're dominating. So, and there's not a lot of competition over there in the NFC. So, for my most surprising team, I will go surprisingly bad. And that's going to be the Denver Broncos, dude. I mean, this was a team that was supposed to be brand new quarterback. And not only brand new quarterback, but it's Russell fucking Wilson, who you also just tacked on a massive extension for. You add him to this amazing receiving core and a Super Bowl ready roster. And Aaron Rodgers, former OC, it's not working out. And I mentioned this before the year. I don't think Russell Wilson's going to be good again. And that's why that contract just makes my stomach feel sick. I can't believe that somebody would waste that money. And of course it's the fucking Broncos, because they haven't had a quarterback since Peyton Manning and struck out since every quarterback since then. So you have a name in a quarterback that you're sure about, and you give them all the money. But I think it's just going to be another massive quarterback mistake for the Broncos, and I think their season is in shambles right now. Shambles. So, yeah, that's a...
Yeah, they were going to be my pick. As I was going to say, surprisingly dysfunctional, but the problem is I didn't see this being that big of a surprise for them to be dysfunctional this early, because like we talked about all offseason, it's a lot of newness. This is, I believe it's the only team with a new quarterback and a new head coach, that head coach also being the play caller on offense. There's just a lot going on in Denver, and obviously the dysfunction that's going on with the head coaching itself and the play calling, with, the on the sideline yelling run or pass, and the clock mismanagement that has struck them 2 weeks in a row, taking away, a total of however many, at least 6 points. But like I said, it's a lot of newness. Do I think that Hackett was a mistake? It surely seems like it right now, but I think might want to give him a little bit more time to figure it out. I still think they could be players in this division.
Jimmy G has a 105 passer rating on Sunday Night Football and is 4-2 straight up. The other thing, talking about this with the Broncos and how inept they are when they're in the red zone. They're 0-6 in the red zone scoring opportunities. They're also the only team in the NFL that is averaging over 100 penalty yards a game.
That's terrible.
Also got to the goal line and got zero. They got to the goal line at least twice.
How do you fail in the red zone, bro? Oh my God.
I mean, their touchdowns were like a 30-yard touchdown to the third string tight end and the Jerry Jeudy deep touchdown that they had. That's it. Every other thing's been field goals inside the red zone.
It's so bad. It's so bad in Denver right now. It's scary. And I know the Raiders are 0-2. I feel a lot better about the Raiders right now than the Broncos, personally.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's close, but I feel better.
We know what's wrong with Vegas, and I know that's like would sound better, but like we know what's wrong with Vegas, and the things that are wrong with Vegas probably aren't going to get fixed between now and November or December. Denver could figure it out. Like they can figure out this head coaching stuff. The roster is there. The problem with Vegas is offensive line, corners. I mean, pass rush to a certain degree. All
right,
interior.
Let's hop into our headliners for the week, boys. And if you aren't familiar with this little segment, it's the games we're looking to watch, the games we're going to be tuning in for, having our bag of popcorn ready for. So I'll go ahead and go first. I'll go ahead and go Packers at the Bucks in the 4:30 window. Some of the things to watch in this game. This could be an NFC Championship preview, but some of the
it was last year.
Yeah. And no, NFC Championship was Rams Bucks last year.
No. Rams Bucks was first round.
That was second round.
Oh, yeah.
Rams Niners was.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
NFC
Packers Bucks was year before.
Right. Yeah. Because Aaron Rodgers won MVP and he was supposed to. It was supposed to be the last dance with yada yada yada. But okay.
So great to watch.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm going Packers Bucks. Things to watch. Obviously, NFC Championship preview. Possibly. These teams have been the perennial favorites in the NFC for the past few years, but. I mean, we were just talking about it. That might be leaning the other way, Some of the other teams in this division that fought it out last year for the NFC Championship, the Rams, I don't think that they're going to make it back there this year. They are not looking good to start the year. The 49ers, they're adjusting. They made a whole season's plan with Trey Lance, and obviously it won't be too bad of an adjustment going to Jimmy G, who was your quarterback last year. But, I mean, they were pretty much a fluky-ish team last year to make it as far as they did in the playoffs. I mean, not a lot of people expected them to make it that far. So those are the two teams in play. Also, the Eagles. I mean, those are the guys that are really threatened for that NFC Championship spot right now. But these are the perennial teams that have been dominant in the NFC over the past few years, and they could definitely make it back again. But a lot of it depends on, and my next thing to watch is whether or not Brady can get back on track, because he has not looked like the Tom Brady of old in his first 2 games. A lot of shit going on at home with the guy. There's been a lot of stuff saying like he's not acting the same and he's looking kind of weird. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of weird vibes surrounding Brady. Not to mention that he doesn't have any of his wide receivers this week. So it'll be tough for Brady to get back on track, especially against a talented Packers secondary. But last thing to watch in this game, and this is more of a, well, honestly, has a lot to do with Aaron Rodgers' success for the rest of the season, but also a fantasy tidbit. Who emerges as the Packers wide receiver 1 as we get more into the season? It has not been made clear yet who is going to be Aaron Rodgers' number 1 receiving target this year. The rookies, a lot of Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, some new faces, Sammy Watkins. Like, these guys, they've been in practice all week for 3 weeks now. They've seen game time.
Sammy Watkins out this week.
Oh shit. Okay. But yeah, like, these guys, especially the rookies, they've been in camp. They've been going through practice weeks in preparation for game day. They've been through 3 weeks of practice. So I think this is when we're going to see either Christian Watson or Romeo Doubs step up as Aaron Rodgers' guy, potentially, alongside maybe in Allen Lazard and Robert Tonyan. But, you know, if it's going to be a week, I think we start to see these rookie wide receivers emerge this week. So, yeah, that's my thing to watch for the headliner game. So,
yeah, I'll give you a couple little nuggets on this. This is the second lowest point total in Rodgers' career in a game, and it's at 4 in the regular season, and it's at 42, which is absolutely ridiculous. The unders are 3-1 when these two quarterbacks face each other, Brady and Rodgers. Brady's 3-1 against the spread against Rodgers. Packers are 0-4 their last 4 road games. And this stat I love, Green Bay is 33-18 against the spread under LaFleur, which during that time since he's been coach is the best in the NFL.
Solid. Fuck yeah. All right. Well, you want to go ahead and give us your headliner, man?
Yeah. My headliner is Raiders Titans. So these are 2 teams that obviously are desperate for a win. Both these teams are 0-2. There were a lot of people that saw both these teams as playoff teams, maybe right on the cusp of playoffs, and neither one has looked good in either game so far this season. One question that I have for you guys is, which is worse, getting beat 41-7 or blowing a 20-point lead and losing in overtime? And that's going to be the big question, because which team is able to come back from a demoralizing defeat in whichever way you want to look at it and is able to propel themselves to victory?
I think it's more of a negative effect if you lose a 21-point lead and end up losing, because that's just kind of like, holy fuck, like, that's so, like, you go into the week knowing, like, we tried, like, everything we could and we just couldn't, like, get over. Like, that's really hard to get over, like, emotionally. But, like, if you get blown out, you could just be like, okay, that week, like, we could just write that off. Like, fuck it, didn't happen. Like, it's hard to write off a week where you're leading 21 points and then lose the lead. Like, that's really hard to do the same thing with. Like, you can kind of just scratch away a week that you get blown out in.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably agree with you on that. The only negative thing is that for the Titans, this is a short week. You know, they played on Monday night, so it's one less day of rest for them. The big question is this a get-right game for Derrick Henry? He's averaging 3.1 yards per carry and has not had a rush of more than 20 yards this season. We talked about it, and this is something that we were fearful of the Titans can only run the ball, so teams are just stacking the box. The Cardinals ran for almost 5 yards a carry, albeit a lot from Kyler Murray last week against the Raiders. So does that open things up for Derrick Henry this week? The other question is, does Devonte Adams bounce back? I have him ranked as my wide receiver 2 this week because I think he does. He had 10 catches for 141 yards in week 1, and then last week he had 2 catches for 12 yards against, in my opinion, a very porous Cardinals defense. So let me ask you guys this question. Which one do you see being more of the trend the rest of the season? And I don't want to hear, oh, he'll fall somewhere in the middle. If you had to pick one or two, which one's it going to be?
Jaden, I'll hand it to you first, dog.
Do you think
What?
Devonte is more
What was
likely to put up 10 for 141 or 2 for 12 in every week the rest of the season?
10.
Oh,
Yeah, 10. Yeah, it's
10 for 140. Because I mean that's what he did. That was what
Volume.
made him who he was in Green Bay. Was like he can dominate a team if you give him 12, 14 targets, and I know that that's kind of hard to do in a regular offensive game plan, but that's how Devonte Adams makes his money, is if you make him a target monster. I don't think that 2 catches for 12 yards is going to be in his future a whole lot anytime soon. Just he's just too
they
good
were
to do
also
that on a
winning
consistent
for a lot
basis.
of
But
that
if Derek
game,
Carr
so
can't get
it's
his
like
shit together,
you weren't forced to throw the ball. But in the game against the Chargers, you were neck and neck the whole time. So, and Derek Carr is one of those guys, like I've talked about it a million times. He can win you a game, but he's got Devonte now, so it's like it's almost the perfect combination because Devonte can win you a game by himself, and then Derek just by pushing it, forcing it, and that's what I've seen with Devonte. Like he's managed to force it, and Derek Carr can definitely force the ball in there as well. So, God, you hate Derek Carr.
No, I mean I probably agree with you guys, but I mean I will be concerned if he does not have a big week this week. If he doesn't have a typical Devonte week this week, like if he has like a 3 for 40 or something like that, like that's when I'm going to start to be concerned, especially if I'm a Devonte Adams owner in fantasy.
My thing is last week though, like who else? Nobody really took the targets from him. Like it's not like Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, like they had great weeks. Like they didn't. Like that would be my concern.
A pretty large target share though.
Hunter Renfrow didn't get too much.
I mean, I think Adams had 7. So I mean, I don't know if you take that as a good thing or a bad thing.
I mean, I wouldn't take it as I mean, 7's standard. I wouldn't say that that's like incredible, but it's definitely standard. Matt Collins had 8 targets, Renfrow had 10, and Waller had 8.
Oh, okay. So all above. Yeah. All right. Fair.
The last thing I do want to touch on in this game is the Titans have a 38% chance to make the playoffs and a 31% chance to win the division, which shows just how bad the AFC South is, because on the other end, the Raiders only have a 16% chance to make the playoffs. So this, in my opinion, is an enormous game for the Raiders. And to be honest, whoever loses this game, their season's done. In my opinion, there's no way you're starting off 0-3 in the AFC and making the playoffs. Maybe in the AFC South, but like
if the Raiders lose, I was about to say if the Raiders lose, their season is done. If the Titans lose,
because
they
if
can
the Titans
still
lose,
win the division, which is insane.
Yep.
The Colts are right in the same bed, pretty much. I mean, they got the tie.
If the Texans were to lose to the Bears,
boat,
if the Colts were to lose to the Chiefs, and the Jags were to lose to the Chargers, which all are underdogs, and the Titans lose, then we're still in the same boat that we were in last week. And we're looking at a team that's going to end up being 7-10, maybe 6-9-1, that ends up winning this division. Like it is that bad of a division this year. But yeah, that's my preview of this week. I think this is an extremely pivotal game for both teams as you look ahead for this season, because these are two teams that are in win now mode. These are two teams that have bought into what they have, and they've kind of put all their chips in and said, this is what we're going to go with, and this is what we're going to try to win with. And one of these windows is going to be closed after this week, in my opinion.
Jets, Bucks, Chargers, Lions, and Texans. Those are the only teams in NFL history to come back from 0-3 to make the playoffs.
There you go.
Yeah, so this is a must-win game for one of those teams if they actually have playoff aspirations. So, all right, Jaden, hit us with it, man.
Yeah, so mine is Dolphins Bills. The battle of two 2-0 teams, the only battle of 2-0 teams that we're going to have this week. Obviously, huge implications in the division. The two favorites for the division going to be matching up this week. And we've talked about it earlier with Tua, how he's riding that high of last week. Obviously, there's so many implications for him because after how he played last week is probably going to have him the closest to Herbert, Burrow, that whole AFC cluster of quarterbacks, really the NFL cluster of quarterbacks that he's been for his entire career and could be for a very long time, especially if he doesn't back it up this week. I think if he comes out and has a good, doesn't necessarily outplay Josh Allen, but comes damn close to it, he might earn a little bit of respect. But if he doesn't, like if he comes out and lays an egg, it's going to be a while before we think about Tua the same way we were thinking about him, or relatively close.
So what's
just
a
7
good game
days
for Tua?
or what,
250 and 2 touchdowns,
4
no
days
picks.
ago. I mean, if that's
Against
a good game for
the
Tua,
best
then we're
defense
really
in
lowering the
football
standards
right now,
for what a
Jaden
good game
Kozak.
That's a good game. We should
Against the best defense in football right now.
What? What did you say? I mean, still. I mean, I'd expect Herbert. I'd expect Mahomes. I'd expect those, because that's what they're supposed to do. They get paid $50 million a year. That's why they're the top guys. Because they're supposed
Tua
to.
isn't, even in my opinion, he's not
Those
one
kinds of
win away
quarterbacks-
from being in the conversation of Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes. Like, you guys have been saying that this whole podcast. Couldn't be farther
I'm
from
just
that
saying,
opinion,
like,
personally.
you're not going to
Like,
hear him.
You can have I'm not saying that he's in that same category, but you can
No,
at least have a conversation about it. If he were to go out and throw for like 350 and 3 touchdowns or something, yeah, we can have that conversation next week about whether or not he's put himself in that category. I'm not saying that he's in the same category. I'm not saying that it will happen even after this game, but you can at least have that conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, and the flip side of that is, if he doesn't have that kind of game, it's not going to happen again. It's going to be a while, and it's going to take a lot more.
I think you're taking a lot of stock in the game that they're playing, the best team in football with the best defense in football, playing really hot right now. Like, that's
because of what he did last week.
This is what I'm saying. These types of guys, the guys that can put up those kinds of numbers, they're not matchup dependent quarterbacks. I'm not like worried about Brady or Mahomes against certain, because those are those guys. Like, they are those dudes. And I don't know if Tua ever will be one of those dudes. Just based
since
off of
Patrick
what he
Mahomes
can do
didn't perform
physically,
against the Chargers
just
last
may
week.
not have it.
What's going on? Is he just Tua now?
But he's done it previously. Like, we've seen it previously. We haven't seen it previously from Tua.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have 1 week. We have 1 week to go off of.
That's fair. Okay.
Yeah. But
struck a chord.
Moving off
struck
of Tua,
a chord. Sorry, my apologies.
I'm sure we'll be talked
struck
about
a chord.
when we do the episode. Injury report got pretty thick for both rosters. Xavier Howard, questionable. Teron Armstead, questionable. Also, Micah Hyde, out. And Tre'Davious White still on IR. So you hear that. Micah Hyde, Tre'Davious White, Xavier Howard.
during the Monday night game. He's another
Dane
DB that
Jackson.
plays significant time for that.
Kyer Elam is the guy.
So
That's
you
it.
hear. Yeah, but you've got in Buffalo, you're going to have Kyer Elam and Christian Benford starting at corner, 1 and 2, both rookies. And then you hear, obviously, Micah Hyde, Xavier Howard, and Tre'Davious White. Xavier Howard's questionable, so he might play. But if he doesn't go, that's probably the 3 best secondary players in this matchup specifically, all not playing. When you've got an offense like the Bills right now and you have an offense like the Dolphins right now, the bet to make on this game is whatever the fucking score, whatever the total is.
And I think it's it's the highest over-under between these two teams in the last 35 years.
Wow.
I was about to say.
But in comparison to like the over-unders so far
Which
this
is
year, I'm
insane.
slamming that over, dude. Like,
Also, yeah. And the crazy thing is, unders are winning at like a 2-to-1 rate now. Like, unders are hitting like crazy. Also, Ed Oliver not going to be playing this week. Jordan Poyer also questionable in
so
Buffalo.
what you're saying is the Dolphins
a lot of
have a
injuries
chance.
going around. The big matchup to watch.
Also,
The Dolphins
I
have
also
a chance.
heard this.
I never said that the Dolphins.
I
don't have
also
a
heard that
chance.
this
But
week,
Buffalo.
where the away bench is positioned at the Dolphins stadium, that sun is going to be beating on the Bills the entire time, whereas the Dolphins will be in the shade. And that heat and that humidity down in Miami in September is absolutely brutal.
And they aren't used to that.
I don't
in
know
Buffalo.
how much of an
You've been
effect it's going to have, but look out for that.
Yeah. Dolphins have not beaten the Bills in their last 7 matchups. So essentially, I don't know if Josh Allen was playing, because it would go back. No, they have not beat Josh Allen. Yeah, they have not. The Dolphins have not beat Josh Allen yet, so that's definitely something to take into account here. This is definitely, I would say, probably one of the best defenses they've had. Obviously, those Brian Flores defenses were very good, but this Bills offense has looked insane. They look like a tier better than everybody that they've played so far, and they've played the Rams
Josh
and the
Allen
reigning
lost
number
his
one
first
seed
ever
AFC.
start against the Dolphins.
Wow.
Okay, yeah. So
obviously that's still hanging over Josh Allen's head. Obviously. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Obviously, I mean that's bulletin board material right there.
Right above the locker. Yeah.
Yeah, they've just kept it up for the last 7 matchups.
That's terrible. All right. Is that do it for Bills Dolphins, man?
Well, just want to, obviously, this is a divisional game. This is going to matter in December when, you've got to choose between going to Buffalo or Miami.
Oh, yeah.
This is
probably
the
game of the week out of
big
our
game.
headliners for sure. All right, let's rattle through these spread alerts real quick, just so we can get off here, because whenever you're listening to this, it's probably better than 2:00 in the morning. But and Tyler's got a hell of a day tomorrow too, man.
Rock chalk, man. Kansas Duke football. Never thought I'd hear Kansas and Duke as a sold out game, but it is. And I'm going to drive over to Lawrence and check out a pretty awesome environment at the booth.
Let's go, man. Fuck yeah. All right. For my spread alert, real quick, I'm going Bengals. Tyler managed to grab them at -5.5. They're sitting at -6.5. I would still take that right now. I think a lot of they have started 0-2. I get it. There's concern in Cincinnati, but what they did to the offensive line, anything is better than last year. And they just haven't been playing well so far, and there's no explanation for it except that they just haven't gelled as an offensive line yet. Like they haven't been playing together long enough yet. So I think this is the week that they finally start to figure things out on the O-line. And the talent finally starts to live up there. I mean, they have three Pro Bowlers on their offensive line. Come on, that's bound to balance itself out at some point. But yeah, -6.5. I'll take Cincy. Also, big revenge game from last year. They got knocked off by the Jets. It was a huge shocker. Can't imagine. Same reason that I took the Colts to beat the Jags last week, but that didn't happen.
You remember what game that was last year?
Mike White, man.
That was the
Mike White
400-yard game.
Dude, his fucking cleats, his jersey are sitting in the hall. He's the first. I think it was the first ever backup quarterback to go for those stats. I don't know. It was something crazy, but he's in the hall for it. But yeah, I like Cincinnati. They're gonna be pissed after last year, and I think that offensive line is finally put together. And without that, this team is just better than last year. So yeah, I'll go. Huh?
That's the thing that I'm worried about with Cincinnati, dude. The offensive line was bad last year, and it's been upgraded significantly. Joe Burrow has still been sacked more times than anybody else in the league.
I know.
Yep, I think he's at 13.
Yeah.
I think it's a Joe Burrow problem. I think it's a play calling problem. It's something. I mean, you are facing T.J. Watt and Micah Parsons, who are arguably the two best edge rushers in the league back to back, and now you're going to be playing Carl Lawson. But I'm not 100% convinced that it's an offensive line problem.
Yeah, no, I'm not convinced. Okay,
I will say.
Okay,
I
understand.
I will say this as well. The Jets are 1-13 their last 14 straight up in the month of September.
Sheesh.
And the Jets are 1-5 against the spread their last 6 as a home underdog. You want to guess what that one is? Cincy last year.
Damn. Yeah, pretty easy.
But I agree with you. I think it's an absolute revenge spot for them. I think it's they're 0-2. It's a get right game. It's a revenge game. This is a defending AFC champion. If you're gonna get your season back on the tracks, this is it. I mean, everything. It's a lot of the NFL situations, and this is a great situational spot. The Jets are also coming off a huge momentum high, beating the Browns like they did, and now they have to come back and once again, like I said, play the AFC champion. So, yeah, it's situational spot. It definitely lines up for the Bengals in a get right spot.
Yeah, and if the Bengals don't figure it out this week, I'm ready to write them off. Like that's the thing. Like with the Colts last week, I went the Colts, and I was like, like you said, it's all situational. Like I was like, Colts are gonna beat the Jags. since they got blown out by the Jags scoring 0 points, I'm done off the Colts. Like, until further notice. Like, it's all situational, so totally right. But how about you dive into your spread alert, man?
I can go. Mine is the Ravens minus 2.5. Why this line went from 3 to 2.5, I have no idea. I think it's a little bit of reverse line movement, meaning the public is hammering the Patriots. Bill Belichick's 15-5 against the spread in his career as the Patriots coach as a home underdog. So I think there's some of that definitely playing in. But I have no idea really and truly why, unless there's something crazy going on with Lamar. I know the elbow issue has been talked about. I know he's wearing a soft elbow pad basically during practice, but I'm not buying into any of that bullshit, to be honest. Harbaugh says he's fine. I think he's fine. I think that this Ravens team is still one of the best in football. I mean, they were kicking the shit out of the Dolphins for 3 quarters. I know they blew it, but like they were up 35-14 going into the 4th quarter and ended up losing. I don't like this Patriots team. Nothing that they did last week shows me that I should have confidence in this team. I mean, you beat Mitch Trubisky. No offense, Jaden. But like this Patriots team, we talked about it in the preseason. We talked about it immediately after last season. You know, we were talking about it in the offseason. What on this Patriots team shows me that they're ready to win and compete with a team like the Ravens? Because I still think the Ravens are one of the best teams in the AFC, maybe even in football. Why this line is 2.5, I have no idea. Some people are calling it a trap. Some people are saying Vegas knows what they're doing. The line is here for that reason. I'm not believing in it. I absolutely am believing that the Ravens are going to win this game. Since 2019, the Ravens are 11-2 against the spread when the spread is between +3 and -3. This is right at -2.5. I love the Ravens in the spot. I would hammer the fuck out of this line. I go ahead and chirp me if you want, as Vegas knows what they're doing if they end up losing this, but I can't see the Ravens losing this game. And if they win by 2 or they win by 1, you know, fuck me. But like, I'm going to take the Ravens by a field goal in this game all day, every day, twice on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm with it. I mean, a lot of, like, you can make that argument for every fucking bet that you make. Like, oh, Vegas knows what they're doing. Like, you know, like.
Yeah, but like the Bengals line went from -4.5 and now it's already at -6.5. Right. So like that makes sense. Yeah. Why does this go from -3 Ravens down to -2.5? Like why does that half point, and that half point is huge in the NFL anymore? Yeah. Why does that half point shift? And I'll take Justin Tucker. Absolutely. I'll take Justin Tucker to give me a game-winning field goal and the Ravens win by 3. Like I could absolutely see that happening, but I have no optimism with this Patriots team.
Fair enough. All right, Jaden, what you got, man?
Yeah, I got KC going to Indy. I still think they're going to win. I think they're going to be – I think that's what, -5? Last time I checked, it was -5.5.
Yep.
Okay.
And see, that started at -6.5, and it's gone to -5.5.
Yeah. Gus Bradley is the Colts defensive coordinator. He was with Vegas last year. He runs that cover 3 coverage that Patrick Mahomes absolutely destroys every time he plays it. He just destroyed Vegas every time he's played them with Gus Bradley there.
Didn't think about that.
Shaq Leonard is out again this week. And Colts are 0-1-1 and just got shut out by Jacksonville. So I don't really feel confident in what they're going to be able to do. I know they get Michael Pittman back this week, but the Chiefs just feel better right now. I feel a lot better about the Chiefs than I do about Indianapolis. So,
yeah, Indy's 1-5 against the spread as a home underdog under Frank Wright, and that includes 0-4 in their last 4.
Keywords being there under Frank Reich.
Yeah.
Under Andy Reid, the Chiefs are 47-25-1 against the spread on the road. One of the best, if not the best, in football.
That dude, Andy Reid, man. Imagine just feeling comfortable about your head coach all the time. I mean, Jaden knows how that is.
But most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time. But all right, boys. I think that just about does it. Running 2:06 o'clock in the a.m. But yeah, I'll have this edited by tomorrow morning so we can have all of our picks out, all of our analysis, so you can dive into it before you hop into your fantasy lineups, hop into your bets, hop into your parlays on Sunday. So good shit, boys. Love to see it. But we will catch you next week. Good luck with all your bets and shit this weekend. And Godspeed, gentlemen. Peace.